Good evening, folks. My people, you're all out there. Welcome to Black Star, Still Rising, dedicated to the memory of Philip Jackson, the founder of the Black Star Project, our sponsor, and always our hats off to Gloria Smith, the executive director of Black Star, who is keeping the tradition that Phil Jackson put together and is still going well. Welcome here today. I should give you a little preview. We're going to have somebody that was here when we had the earthquake. Few people know we had an earthquake that stopped our last production for about 10 minutes. It was only in the studio area, but it stopped us from continuing the program that we have with Dr. Mike, the dynamic Dr. Mike. You're going to be hearing from him because what he says to us, he says, from head to toe, then some more. That's gentlemen from the famous Xavier University, where all the great pharmacists and PharmDs came into existence. But we're going to talk about more because Dr. Mike is going to talk about a number of things that are going to grab your interest. So get your pencil and paper, get ready to take some notes on this because there's some dynamic things that we want to talk about. I'm a little non-conventional. Usually I do these kudos at the back end of the program, but I don't want to forget. My shout out is to Amani and to Rocio for being the great studio producers that they are and making us and always making my guests comfortable and me comfortable too. Mm-hmm. Shout outs to my buddy from Congressman Jonathan Jackson's office, Mr. Othel Owens, who is the Director for Constituent Services and one of the supporters of the Black Star Still Rising. Mm-hmm. People in the South Shore area, certainly Cy Lewis, and now she has her own program over at Meadows East. And I think I hit all the high spots of who I'm supposed to talk about and talk to. But one last thing, and this is going to lead us into it. We had on our show a few weeks ago, is Dr. Sherry Yarborough. Dr. Yarborough talked about the areas of dementia and how that can come all at once. With that introduction, Dr. Mike.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be back on the show.
Yes, after that earthquake.
Like I've been here, without so much positive energy,
yes.
We just moved the room. We just shook the room.
That's what it did. That's what it did.
On that frequency that
we
operate
had not
on.
operated this, got this prepared for that energy that you bring.
Yeah, they had to change the frequency at which they operate on to accommodate the level at which we bring this knowledge to
Let's
our people.
continue where we left off. That we had some very dynamic things that you want to bring to attention of our audiences.
Yes.
You folks out at Atlas and the Kroc Center, etc.
Yes.
Be prepared to take good notes. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, before we get started, I just need to give my condolences to one of Xavier's greatest staff members, Mr. Randall Schexnayder. He passed away, and his funeral will be this Saturday. And I would just like to give him my condolence. He helped me out in so many instances with my financial aid. I remember one time I was like $600 short.
That was big money then.
Yeah, and he reminded me that because I was an RA in the dorm, that I could use that money because it was Friday and school started on a Monday, and the lady was saying, well, you can't start school
until you come up with
my third year, come up with the money. And I was like, well, I don't want to do something strange for some change. So, he knew I was from Chicago. So he was like, no, Mike, we don't want you to do nothing strange.
Don't revert.
Right. So seriously, though, he was able to apply my RA money towards my
that's resident assistance?
Yeah,
okay.
Resident assistance in St. Michael's dorm. Shout out to St. Michael's.
Shout out, okay.
And so, yes, I just want to say really seriously my condolences, and I pray for his family during this difficult time. And
his mentors during that period is so important.
Yeah,
got you where you are now.
That was 32 years ago, and when I saw him in 2015, I reminded him of that incident, and we both laughed, and he's always been a good friend of mine, and I'm going to miss him a lot. So that's my...
your shout out for today.
My shout out.
I'm glad we had the opportunity to address that for a great HBCU university
Randall
too.
Schexnayder. Yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, we're here today to continue our discussion about dementia, and a lot of times people think of dementia as just one thing. In actuality, there's 5 types of dementia, and the one we're going to focus on today is Alzheimer's.
Well, can I before you get into that, I know you're going to get into it. Tell us why it's important that they do it, that they do something now? You shared with me.
Yes.
Okay.
Before we even, yes, thank you very much. The number one thing about the different types of dementia, that you don't know when that's going to affect you. And so it's very important that you get your affairs in order. And I mean by affairs as the person that's caring for you even while you're still in your cognitive right mind.
At that point, that's a great point.
Yes, and I say that again, in your cognitive right mind, you want to go and speak with your lawyer and get paperwork that allows that person to be your guardian and get that, go to the bank. I did that with my mom, and so it was a beautiful thing that I have that information and I have access to her account. Also, you want to write down all your passwords, because sometimes that's the thing that with Alzheimer's, your short-term memory is the number one thing that's affected. Your long-term memory is good, but your short-term memory is affected, and your ability to do your activities of daily living, you can't do those anymore. And
so the importance of that is that certain things you can do or they can't be done if you are not in your right, I'll say right mind, but cognitive
mind
before you
if,
have these symptoms showing.
Right. If someone suddenly has whatever, some kind of event, they may fall and hit their head, and then the signs of dementia exist, and particularly Alzheimer's, because that's the short term. The lawyers will not allow you to do that paperwork when a person's not in their right, they call it their right cognitive mind. So that's the number one thing you do. If you see that your loved one is beginning to change their habits and their memory, that's what you see. You see memory loss. Sometimes people begin to repeat themselves. They don't remember how to go places. I'm sure you know stories of people who say, well, I went to the store and my dad or something got lost trying to get back home. Those are early stages of dementia. So as soon as you see those things affecting your mom, dad, loved one, anybody, you want to make sure that you immediately get their affairs in order, because once they lose that short-term memory and they can't make decisions, lawyers do not want to do that, because it's almost like illegal, because they don't know if that's really their wishes.
It's going to cost you too, because all the legal things that you have to go through. So it's a very delicate situation, I'm sure, for families who have faced dementia.
Yes.
They don't want to necessarily bring that to the attention of the person who is going through this, but they have to bring it in such a way that they are not threatened of losing their ability to operate, giving up the car keys and those kind of things.
Yes.
But now, please go on into the areas and different types of dementia.
Okay. So, like I said, a lot of times people say, oh, this person has dementia, but there are 5 types of dementia. The one we've been talking about is Alzheimer's. You got vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia, frontal lobe dementia, and then you can have a combination of those 4. And so,
are there some areas of dementia that are more common or pronounced that people are aware of? Are some more esoteric, you might say? Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, Alzheimer's is the one that 70% of people who are affected with dementia as the class. Alzheimer's is 70% of people who are faced with that, and that affects the hippocampus in your brain.
What part of your brain?
That's the hippocampus. Okay. Yeah, it's right on the side there. And so that's the one that affects your short-term memory. And what causes that is, cholesterol, diabetes, stress. There's a lot of things that affect the rest of your body that affect your brain too as well. And what happens is that there are plaques that build up. You have, like in a spark plug, you have electricity that goes back and forth.
That arc, okay, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's sludge and there are fibers. It's almost kind of sludge, and the messages that go back across is so many, it's like they begin to get built up. The sludge is built up, and it's a beta amylase, and that's just a scientific term, but it's like sludge that builds up. It's plaque. Like on your teeth, you can have plaque on these neurons that are bridges that messages goes across.
Does it go across as fast?
Well,
or doesn't
it
go
doesn't.
across. Period.
It begins to stop that signal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why people can't remember things.
Okay.
Because that's just like a Christmas tree. You know, the lights begin to go out. Like
Mm-hmm.
some of them go out. It's
But
like
not
your
all of them,
brain is
yeah.
like a Christmas tree of lights, and then some of those lights will go out, and that part will be dim, and that's kind of what happens to your brain.
But I know that you can probably address two aspects of it, maybe not in depth, but preventative, and then if you have it, what is either science telling you in your reading? I know you're not a medical doctor, you don't profess to be, but what do you hear? What have you read, you as an everyday person,
Yeah.
as a person in the sciences, say about preventative?
Preventative medicine for that is basically trying to eat a better diet. A lot of times the sugar that we consume has high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, that's not a good word in
Well-
health eating, is it?
Well, that is what it is, and the research shows that the high fructose corn syrup is like 7 or 8 times worse for your brain. When you take in food, like 30% of that sugar, you need that for energy for your brain to operate.
30%, go ahead.
You need that sugar, but if you get too much, and then that sugar goes from the intestines to the liver, and then when that's broken down, you get a product called uric acid. Same thing that you're familiar with people who have gout.
Amen. Hey, any other folks out there?
Yeah.
Friends? All right. We know about the uric acid. what
That
you've
same
done.
uric
Yes.
acid, if you get too much of that and that spills over into your blood, then that goes to your brain. And when you get too much of that, that's what we were talking about. You get that sludge. You know, the beta amylase protein is affected, and then that causes the brain cells to die.
Okay, now what are some of the things that is coming, not that you can give any definitive, that work on someone who is in some stages of dementia?
Well, the thing, like I said, I'm dealing with this actively. One of my loved ones has dementia, and so what we're trying to do basically is you're trying to override your short-term memory
Okay.
and begin to have a routine. And so the routine that I deal with my loved one is that I have a clock, not a circular clock, but a digital clock, so that they can see time, space,
Okay.
because once again, you're talking about short-term loss
Right,
of memory.
right.
And so when you lose your short-term, you don't know what day it is. Like my loved ones didn't know that it was Christmas when it was Christmas. You know, and that's something that most people know.
Aware
when
of
it's
and
Christmas,
keeping it,
right?
yeah.
And so what we're doing is I'm trying to work with my loved one to set a routine where I call in the morning, say at 9 o'clock, say, okay, we got your clock, your digital clock, and it says today is February, you know, whatever day it is, and it's time. So they begin to have a routine. And so instead of applying your short-term memory, I'm like, use your eyes to tell the rest of your senses what's going on.
Well, that's a very important tip for even folks who aren't in dementia, right?
Well, I mean, hey, if you don't know what day it is, I mean, you know how you go on vacation and you in the third day and you don't know.
On the island on the beach, right?
I mean, it's kind of almost like when you have dementia, you're not focused. Your mental focus is not there, and so it's just like you're in space. And then by having that digital clock, please, y'all, if you know anybody that's dealing with this, please get them a digital clock so they can see the time and the date and the year. You just go to any big box stores, they have the digital clock. The circular clock does not help them because it doesn't tell them what day it is. And so I call at 9 o'clock, and I got the pill bottle, and then we got written down, take 3 pills at 9 o'clock, and then 3 pills at 6 o'clock. So we've been doing this for about a month now, and so it's helping her stay focused and connected with life, because that's what happens when your short-term memory goes, you're disconnected. It's like you're unplugged from day-to-day reality. And then your ability to do things like cooking and cleaning and just knowing where you're going and knowing people that are calling you, you don't know them. And so people begin to withdraw even more because it's embarrassing not to be able to know when somebody calls you and you don't know who they are. You can't remember.
I had one of my friends, I could tell that one of their partner was having problems because they had put up signs around the house.
Yes.
Who to call for this, who to call for that. Very nice printed signs.
Yes.
And that was one of the adjustments that they made for this family member to call. Some things they would be more able to adjust to, like making the phone call
Yes.
or having things on speed dial to call. But they put signs to keep them from going out the door or you turn around and go back and those kinds of things. But they're adjustments. You had a chance, and I don't know whether you can share some of the experiences with the former, one of our former guests, Dr. Sherry Yarborough. And I think you've been into a book. Have you picked up some pointers from either talking to Dr. Yarborough directly?
Yes, I have. When I was going through this situation, I was able to give her a call, and she reminded me that people that have Alzheimer's, they're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time.
Okay.
And you have to really meet them where they are, and your level of frustration cannot be high because they can't remember. It's almost like when you were talking about your friend that got the signs, and it's like a child.
Yes.
You have to teach them because they don't remember. Simple things like putting something that goes in the refrigerator in the microwave.
Right, right.
You know, and vice versa. You put your keys in the refrigerator. And so, yeah, she told me that, and
So did you talk about the emotional part and the patience that you have to develop?
yes.
And how that hits you to see somebody one day here and the next day off into space, so to speak.
Yeah, that's something that's really and you have to reach a balance with that person because you're used to them operating on a certain level and in one moment, and then the next moment they're different. You know, sometimes the onset of Alzheimer's and can be gradual, or sometimes it can be sudden. You know, I know a friend of mine who's said his dad fell, and then in an instant, you know, he didn't know who he
the same
was.
person.
I mean, this is a person that could use the computer and go online and shop at Amazon and everything, but then all of a sudden, he didn't know his password and how to get into his Chase account.
That happened to me in a way with my aunt a long number of years ago now, but
Yeah.
she got hit by youth on a bicycle and fell and had this concussion. And that's when we were starting to associate falling injuries, hitting your head, concussions, starting the ball rolling with levels of dementia.
Yeah. Well, if you think about a lot of football players, older football players, if you think about people now, you know that because of having violent concussions, it's almost like having an accident after an accident, that they had Alzheimer's.
And we're seeing more and more of that, especially with the NFL's Players Association, the fight that they're having with owners in terms of taking care of players that have been, in some fairly recently.
Well, I think they're doing a good job, and they're working on the helmets too to improve that. And the concussion protocol is definitely much better now. You know, back in the day, I mean, they just give you some smelling salt and say, "Hell, get on back in there."
If you want to earn this little money.
Yeah, so that's very important in boxers too.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
especially
you know,
boxing.
Muhammad Ali, you know, MS and all of those things are all like cousins of something that happened to your brain cells, and they die off. And you know, it's really difficult to deal with that. And I just want to say, please, 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 let me give you a phone number if you have that. If you're dealing with somebody,
okay.
it's 1-800.
1-800.
1-800-272.
272.
3900.
3900.
Again,
Hit it again.
that's 800
800.
272 3900. That's a helpline if you need some help, if you need someone to give you information, because they've shown that your brain is 3 pounds. Your normal brain is 3 pounds.
Yes.
But at the end stages of dementia, because there's early, medium, and then late. When you get to the late stage and you begin to not be able to breathe because those cells are affected, your brain is only 1 pound.
You
So
lose
imagine,
a lot of that.
you're using a
stuff.
third
Okay, yeah.
of your brain's weight,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's tremendous. And so I just want to say thank you again for having me on the show and allowing me to sound the alarm, and don't be in denial. Share that. If you notice something, have that true discussion with your loved ones, because once that part of the brain, those brain cells die, it's very difficult to bring that back.
I think I should bring this up too, and this is something you're aware of.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to bring the family members into the equation.
Yes.
And I think Dr. Yarbrough talked about this with her family members,
Yeah.
how they have to become a part of the caretaking process,
Yeah.
and to share that load, that burden, that albatross.
And one more thing too,
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
go to the doctor, you're going to go to the doctor and say, hey, my loved one is beginning to forget things. There are tests that you can take. It's called a SAG test. It's a self-examination, and also a COG test that they have, where you draw a clock and they ask you what time it is, and they give you 3 words, and then you got to repeat those 3 words. And a lot of people don't pass that test. Like 1 out of 3 people don't pass that test. And that's a sign of early stage dementia, especially as we get older, your 70s, 80s, 90s, that's real. And I'm just glad that you could have me on the show, and we can sound that alarm and save some people and get them some help.
There's a saying that I use sometimes too. It's important, especially in the field of journalism, in the things that I do. Viva voce means pass it on. You've got to be able to pass
Knowledge. Yes.
knowledge and experience, and not be afraid to talk to your friends, your buddies, the folks you grew up with.
Yeah.
You might have grown up with a family over the years, your best friends, the mother was your other mother, your father was your other dad, vibrant people. Those things need to be talked about and not be afraid to be talked about, and to begin to address, as you say,
Yeah.
with the physician, etc., going to the doctors with them. I have a friend, too, that I was surprised how much that person was losing. And again, it's a short term.
It can go faster.
Yeah.
It can last years and years and years. And one other thing I want to say, too, I read this. There's one thing that Alzheimer's cannot take away, and that's love. Because love is not a memory, it's a feeling that resides in your heart and soul.
That's powerful. They might not remember their password, but they can feel the glow of your love, and that has to be transferred and exhibited.
Yeah, even people with dementia, like I said, my loved ones that I'm dealing with, they can feel that passion when I call them and I share, and they say, thank you so much. And it means so much because you connected them back into reality, and that's what happens when your short-term memory goes away. It's like you unplug. It's like unplugging your computer. And they're trying to control, alt, delete, and reset their mind. And imagine what that's like, trying to reset your mind and remember things just from one moment to the next. And so be patient with them. And like I said, they're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time.
That human touch, that builds the confidence. They can feel confident and relaxing with you.
Yes.
Just touching them, reaching out to them.
A hug is a big thing, man.
They've got to have that confidence and feeling that they're loved, respected, and that's what we want to give our seniors. We have to give them the respect that they've developed and earned over the years. We want them to have the esteem and be knowledgeable about the esteem that they should be held in.
Yeah, because these people were just, they're normal people. It's just some part of their brain is short-circuited. So the rest of their body, imagine the rest of your body working, but just your short-term memory. Because my loved one can go back and tell you all kind of stories and things. So yeah, sit there, listen to those stories, because that's what they have, and hold on to that. And you might learn something from those stories.
I think I want you to repeat again the phone number for folks who need help. Folks, get your pencil and paper out again.
That's 800.
1-800-272.
272.
3900.
3900. Yeah, that's a helpline, and there's plenty of help out here. All you have to do is reach out. There's plenty of people who are glad to help you. I called that number. They gave me some good information. There are pamphlets and information that you can go to the doctor, any doctor, and find out and let them know and get some help and love on your loved ones.
And I'm at your disposal too. Of course, you can always email me at blackbutterfly blackbutterfly1940@gmail.com. That's blackbutterfly1940, one word, @gmail.com. Also, I'm going to give you the number too, because I want to be able to refer you when you call, you folks at Atlas, you folks at Crocs, when you call me, I'll be able to give you the information. Maybe you want Dr. Mike to come back again to talk some other area of the effect of different pharmaceutical remedies that people are taking now over the years. And you might want to address that at another date.
And I can share my number. I don't have a problem. My number is area code 302
302
377
377
4422.
4422.
That's again 302 377 4422. That's my direct number. I'm your community pharmacist. You will talk to me. You won't get anybody else. That's my direct number. And I'm glad, like Steve said, is to share that information. You know, that's powerful. It's not the fact that I'm Dr. Mike. It's the fact that I'm sharing that information. I've done that for 30 years in my community.
That's a bunch of years that you've been in the community and practicing pharmacy in the very practical ways that many pharmacists don't do, but do those pills out and put them in the thing and give them out. But you're here.
Wait, don't talk about my pharmacy friends now. They do a fantastic job.
They do.
They're under a tremendous amount of pressure.
Yes, they are. I see
So
it.
they do a fantastic job in the role that they play.
They're not pill pushers, in other words, right?
Yeah, like I said, they do a fantastic job, and I commend all of them, and I talk to them on the basis, and I know the amount of stress that they're under, and God bless them.
One last shout out to your mentor at Xavier.
Mr. Randall Scheck-Snyder, praying for his family during this difficult time. If you went to Xavier and you didn't know, you can go online and at Xavier, and they can give you all that information if you want to send flowers or whatever. There's a site that you can link that you can go on to and write a remark.
One last phone number, 773-285-9600. That's the number for Black Star Project. Thank you for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. Look forward to being back again. Thank you.
Bye.
Always, my brother.
All right, very good.
Always.
Thank you,
Always.
sir.